Okay, guys, here's the fight preview so you can be well informed and all that stuff. Got my good friend Sean of BTR Boxing Podcast. Links in the description, as you know, so you can be lazy, click on it. Sean, thank you for coming on and informing the audience.
Thank you as always for having me. It's a pleasure. I thank you for obviously supporting me at the BTR Boxing Podcast Network. It's always a pleasure coming on your show as well. It makes a change, not feeling the pressure of being the host and doing all the necessary housekeeping. It's just great to be able to come on and just talk boxing, talk about fights, talk about moments that are happening in the sport. So thank you.
Right on. So this week we got Derek Chisora-Otto Wallin for those in the US. It's going to be on, I don't know. I almost went to a default. I think it's on DAZN. I almost said ESPN Plus, but I believe it's a DAZN fight actually with the new Queensberry thing. Went into autopilot. Before we do the breakdown for a US fight fan, what is the emotional connection for a British fight fan to Derek Chisora?
For a British fight fan to Derek Chisora, he's kind of like, you make the comparison of him and Big Ben of London, the Millennium Stadium, the Millennium Eye, all these sort of big landmarks over the years that we've had in the UK. And Derek Chisora's kind of put himself into a position where he's in British boxing folklore. And we were on my podcast recently talking about the same thing. And what I was saying is like there's a fighter in the UK who's long gone now, long passed away, in Sir Henry Cooper, who's even all these years later after his boxing career, he's still revered as a British boxing legend because of how his career panned out. And I think David Chisora is going to be one of those guys. Like, yeah, okay, he's lost 13 times in his career, but he's shared the ring with some of the best of the generation. He really has. He's been able to fight, I would say, in maybe two separate generations because of his career and the longevity of his career. But it feels bittersweet now because we're at his last fight and he's a guy that's kind of brought entertainment. Sometimes it's not always been the type of entertainment you've wanted to see, but it's entertainment nevertheless. And he's brought to the table like the opportunity for British boxing fans to sort of see that British bulldog mentality. I think if you think of Britain, you think of the British bulldog and you think of that sort of stereotype of Britain. I think Derek Chisora has actually put himself, even though he's not originally from Britain, he's an adopted Briton. He's actually put himself in that position by what he's done in his career to be regarded as like that British bulldog Winston Churchill mentality. I really do think he's put himself in that way because of the way he's adopted himself in British boxing folklore.
Okay. Now, stylistically looking at this fight, it's a pretty even fight because Otto Wallin, as you pointed out on your own show, which people should listen to, has that tendency to be a European fighter. He's more of a finesse fighter. Chisora, there's no secrets about his game plan. He's coming forward. He's going to say war. He's going to do the Hagler thing. Physicality is a big part of his thing. We haven't seen Wallin respond well to physicality. What are your expectations and some of your analysis to help people be well informed for this fight?
When you look at Derek Chisora, you do kind of see a relatively one-dimensional fighter who you know what you're going to get when you get in the ring against him. He's going to come straight at you. He isn't going to move from side to side. He's going to come in straight lines towards you. He's going to use his physicality. He's going to try and lean on you as a fighter, try to bully you, try to get you against the ropes, try to throw shots on the inside, probably throw a few sneaky little illegal shots on the inside as well, but he wants to rough you up. He doesn't want you to get yourself into a position to find space to use your own physical advantages. And if you're Otto Wallin, you need to be able to use those advantages to keep a fighter like Chisora off you. So you mentioned European style, that finesse style. He wants to try and box. He wants to use his amateur experience that he's transitioned into the professional side of the sport, and he wants to try and keep Derek Chisora at bay. I think he's going to have a really difficult night. If the Anthony Joshua fight is anything to go by, then I think Derek Chisora is going to be looking at that and he's going to be licking his lips and thinking, do you know what? If Anthony can do it, I'm going to be able to do it. I'm going to be able to put pressure on him and he's not going to be able to like it and he's not going to stay on the ropes. So it's a fight where you're expecting Derek Chisora to go in there like a bull in a china shop and you're expecting him to win. If you're a British fan, you're expecting him to win. But I wouldn't sleep on Otto Wallin. I think he's got the ability to make this fight relatively straightforward for himself. When I say that, I refer to the fights with Derek Chisora and Tyson Fury, where he used his physicality, he used his reach and his height advantages over Derek Chisora and made them easy nights for himself. If Otto Wallin can adopt that style and he can set the pace and he can slow that pace down so Derek Chisora isn't coming in at him and he's getting tagged every time he tries to come in at him, then I think Otto Wallin could beat him. I'd expect Otto Wallin to beat him on points. But if I was going the other way with Derek Chisora, you'd expect Derek Chisora maybe to stop Otto Wallin late.
What's your feeling that you think happens for this fight?
Heart. My heart says Derek Chisora goes out and has that one final big victory of his career. That's probably, me being a little biased towards seeing his career throughout the last 15 years. I want him to win. I want him to go out, on a high. But my head says it's not going to be as easy as that. My head says that if Derek Chisora goes in there and he does impose his physical will on Otto Wallin, that he can bully him and he can get the win. Do I think Otto Wallin can win? Yes, of course I do. I'm not going to say he isn't going to be able to win, and I'm not, just because I'm British, thinking that Derek Chisora, it's a given that he's going to win. He's 40 years old. He's coming into the end of his career. But what he's shown us, he's got the ability that not a lot of fighters have. He's got that heart and determination and abundance that some fighters just don't possess. And that's what keeps him going. That's what drives him through. And he's the type of fighter that will literally go out on his shield. Derek Chisora is the type of fighter that, I hate to say this, but I think he would literally sacrifice himself in the ring. It's a horrible thing to say, but he's the type of individual, the character that would happily sacrifice his life in the ring. And that's what you're going up against, if you're Otto Wallin. So it is going to be a difficult night, but if I'm making predictions, I'm trying to go objectively as possible and think about their careers and what they've done and who they've fought and where they're at now physically and mentally. I do think Derek Chisora can do it. I do. I think he can beat him. Whether he puts the pressure on and stops him late or whether it just goes to points, I think Derek Chisora wins this fight.
Now let's go. Well, I should first say, if you're listening to this part, you're either on YouTube, the podcast, or whatever. Now, if you want the extended version with some deep analysis of the undercard, well, go over the Substack, or else this is what you get. Give us some deep cuts of the undercard that not so well-informed U.S.